week 6, maybe, of trying to actually get fall weather here in Georgia. But anyways, welcome back to the Entertainment Room. If you really just need another film or storyline inspired by Groundhog Day, look no further than the 2017 film Happy Death Day, directed by Christopher Landon. The story follows Tree, yes, that is our lead character's name. Unsure what the parent motivation was for a name like that. That's a new one for me, but I don't know. But shout out to people named Tree and her twin sister, Root. Anyway, I immediately got off track there with shitty fucking jokes. But anyways, Tree must relive the day of her murder over and over again in a never-ending loop to escape. It appears she must discover her killer's identity. Survive the day. It took me about 7 years after its release to actually even consider watching this. I don't know why, I just never personally heard the best things about it, so I kept putting it off, putting it on the back burner, but the formula and my desire to figure out how they ended this won over my curiosity. Is Happy Death Day a fun addition to the slasher subgenre? Let's talk about it. So again, this setup has been utilized a fair handful of times, and it has been done well more than once. Aside from Groundhog Day, of course, Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt added a stunning sci-fi element to it, maintaining a thrilling action story in the process. Triangle from 2009 is a criminally underrated horror film that was acknowledged recently in the horror community. I just wish it got more mainstream attention. One of the better, random blockbuster selections of mine that year. A lot of fun can be had, particularly with the beginning and the middle of a story like this, but it can easily crash and burn in the third act if your ending is cheeks. So the story, Tree is a college student, and it starts off as a stereotypical movie sorority girl, and she is bitter as hell about something. Not pleasant in the slightest. Rude and disrespectful to everyone. Maybe it's because her name is Tree. No, but seriously, this was an interesting approach to our lead character, but of course I felt an arc coming on and some history on the horizon, so I just thought, we'll see. Before I start spoilers, I'll give some general thoughts, of course. The characters are surprisingly a plus. I end up caring a good bit for our core members. The chemistry was there, for sure, actually. The acting isn't always the most natural, but overall, it is competent. This is a horror film, but it's also satire, as it doesn't take itself completely serious. I know the humor might be a make or break for this, honestly, but most of it actually worked for me. This was an incredibly entertaining story. When it comes to the mask and slashers, a decent mask is pretty important, I would say. The babyface mask in this one is creepy, I suppose. Anybody in a mask trying to stab people is not to be taken lightly. Now, I don't love the mask here, to be honest, even for horror comedy, but I think it kind of worked nicely for the camouflage for the killer since the college sells them to go along with their mascot, so they kind of blended in with their environment. Why a college would have such a mascot, I have no fucking clue, but moving on. With the horror aspects and tropes, it's okay. This project definitely leans into the comedy aspect a good bit. It of course has those slasher elements, but don't expect an edge-of-your-seat thrill as far as I'm concerned. At least I didn't get that. I do wish they had put a little more focus into that aspect somewhat, but the lighter tone worked in its own way, and putting together the mystery while getting some laughs along the journey was fun. So for you, it may just come down to what you're wanting to get out of this experience. There's some decent scares, also several cheap ones, and the lack of suspense in places is a flaw, at least somewhat, but its strengths largely kind of make up for some of those weaknesses. And this is a PG-13 horror film, which did not excite me, especially for a slasher. That instantly makes me concerned, but as I explained kind of in my Megan review a year ago, however the fuck long ago, PG-13 horror is not an automatic dud. It has been done well before, Insidious being probably one of the better examples out there. And in the case of Happy Death Day, I don't think the R rating and the changes that could have come with it would have added a whole lot, unless you just wanted more gore for some reason. So I don't think I have many complaints in that regard this time around. Sure, it could have been a bit grittier, but I didn't feel like I was missing out on not getting that. I found it interesting that at the time of its release, it apparently was only the third slasher to get a PG-13 rating, after Prom Night 2008 and The Final Girls in 2015. Not that Prom Night was a great example of a PG-13 horror film. One of my proms back in high school was a better horror story. But anyway, Happy Death Day still holds a dark enough tone pretty well. The mystery and Trey's past becoming revealed, figuring out why she is the way that she is. It is a self-aware movie that knows its strengths and plays into them. But on to spoilers though, Happy Death Day is entertaining and decently paced. Give it a go if you have not already. So with spoilers, I'll start again with our lead, Tree. She's miserable, just awful, even on her birthday. She trashes a cupcake her roommate gave her, she ignores calls from her dad, who just wants to try and spend more time with her. She is knowingly having an affair with a married professor. Yikes. But her character arc was ultimately enjoyable as it went on. Some aspects felt a bit rushed and a little bit unrealistic as a whole, but I was invested. Her and Carter, the ultimate love interest, actually had decent chemistry, more than what I was expecting, and they kind of played off each other's differing personalities and quirks fairly well. The reveal at the end with Lori, the roommate with the rejected cupcake, being that killer and trying to frame it on the deranged serial killer she freed from the hospital she works at, it was a sufficient enough reveal. I did kind of see it coming partway through, and I'm typically pretty bad at figuring stuff out like that ahead of time. It just kind of connected earlier on with her access to the hospital that she worked at, and the news of the Tombs serial killer being held there and escaping despite being on 24/7 watch. So we kind of had Tree hyper-focusing on him being the key to surviving and breaking the loop. Plus, Lori was nice to Tree, despite Tree's attitude and treatment of her. But I just always felt this coldness coming off of her with how she reacted to the verbal abuse and the rejection. She had more of a flat effect for what I was expecting for most people's reactions to be at her age. But you could argue, I guess, that they technically could have gone with any of the main characters, no matter what. Either way, the realization and the final fight between Lori, before Tree shows her a new shortcut to the sidewalk downstairs, it was fine. One thing they did not do was explain how the loop started, as Lori looked completely confused when Tree mentions it during their scrap. There's a sequel I have not seen yet, so maybe they explore that there, ? But by the end, I wasn't overly curious for the sake of the story. The scene with her dad when she finally goes to lunch with him was actually pretty emotional and handled rather nicely. Their awkwardness and tension and her dad's desire to be closer to her, he just didn't know how to do it. Because before this real talk, they previously only engaged in that empty small talk until Trey finally knocks on that barrier and they have to confront their shared trauma and their past. And it is revealed that her mom died years back, her mom who shared the exact same birthday as her. So with this movie being largely comedy as well, the humor really needed to work, especially if the true horror elements were lacking so much as they did. And the humor, again, does kind of work overall. I laughed several times, or at least found the jokes or the situational or physical humor amusing. There was some decent dialogue mixed in also. They do, of course, have a corny, on-the-nose Groundhog Day reference, which I could have done without completely. But still, one of my favorite continuous repeated shticks was Carter's roommate, storming into Carter's room each morning, loudly inquiring about the sex he apparently had with Tree, just for him to notice that Tree is still there, leading him to instantly reel in his personality. He literally retracted back into his shell each time, and I was always eager to see each day after the loop restarts. I was eager to see Tree's reaction, as sometimes she would kind of let it play out and entertain it, but other days she would just interrupt him and just be like, get the fuck out of my way. The one last thing I would say about Carter, after the loop was broken, Tree starts the day waking up in his room again, but for a different reason this time, different situation. He decides to prank her by saying and doing the same stuff he did during the loop, the start of the loop, freaking her the fuck out, just to be like, nah, I'm just fucking with you, I'm kidding. It's all over. Bitch! Tree got murdered over and over again, nearly lost your stupid ass, nearly ended it all with multiple regrets. You really roll the dice playing such a stupid fucking joke a day after all the bad shit was done. Like, this motherfucker got lucky Tree did not roundhouse kick his ass in the Johnson and his little brothers. But anyway, I will give Happy Death Day a 6.7 out of 10. A flawed but honest effort that kept me invested. It knows what it is and has a blast with the formula. It makes for a charming and at times heartwarming installment. I doubt it will top any list as far as favorite horror films or even horror comedy films, but it was a pleasant surprise. Let me know your thoughts and if you want me to watch and review the sequel. Also, if you know anybody named Tree. I'm just really curious about that now. Again, shout out people named Tree. Fuck it. And thanks so much for listening. I am, again, now on TikTok. Follow me on my social media. And I'll see you next time on The Entertainment Room.